pretty dumb. How you doing, Duff here? You're in my hobby room. It's kind of a mess right now. I got 3D stuff going on and wheels going on. It's kind of a mess, so I apologize. I'll be working on that. It's one of my list items for this weekend. I am working on setting up my 2 suspension wheels, getting the suspension set up so it's ready to ride. I've not had a chance to go out and ride today either because, believe it or not, it's rained again most of the day. So I've already added air to the bottom of the V11, and I did want to show, I showed this in the live stream but not on a conventional video, that how they have decided to address the issue with the valve caps that were on the V11s before. And they weren't really valve caps, they were more like valve covers. They basically screwed onto the valve body and then were a solid cover over this area, with the thought being that it would protect the valve, the fill valve. There were some issues with that strategy, as Marty demonstrated on his trail riding. He was really damaging that cover. So supposedly they were going to come up with a different cover arrangement based on a post that Liam had in electric unicycle form, but evidently that isn't the case, because when I got my wheel, this is the way that it is. You basically just have a conventional valve cap, and that's it. So I don't think it's a great solution. I mean, the head of it, especially if you have this cap on, with the cap off, it's barely sticking out over the end, but with the cap on, it's sticking out a few millimeters, so it could still definitely take an impact. It could still definitely damage the fill valve. So I don't think that's a great solution. You see how much that sticks out? So I'm gonna see if I can come up with some sort of 3D model maybe that I can stick in here that covers this and offers a solid protection over the top without attaching to the valve itself, because that was the problem with the covers that they originally had, was they covered the area but they still screwed on to this valve. So if the covers took a shot from either side, you were actually putting stresses on the valve. So that's the problem. What you need is something that covers this area that is independent of the valve itself. So I'll see if I can come up with something in my spare time to address that. So anyways, bottom valves are filled. Our bottom shock is filled to about 100, between 110 and 120 psi. So now we're going to do the top. And to do the top, let's see, we're going to put it on a stand, and I'm going to take the saddles off because it's way easier to do it with the saddles off. Okay, so to remove the saddle, it requires removing 4 screws on each side. 1, 2, 3, and 4. So let me do that, and I'll be back in a jiff. Takes 5 minutes maybe. This is actually slightly easier to do if you pop the handle up. You'll have a little bit more room to work. One thing that was a change in the second batch is they replaced the saddle screws that were really low quality, stripped out easily, low quality metal with these high quality screws. So I was happy to see that. Once you have those 4 screws out, the saddle itself should just slide right out. Super easy, right? The one thing they have not addressed yet is, let's get some more light on the subject here, is these mounts here. A lot of people have issues with these mounts breaking, these plastic mounts. In subsequent batches, supposedly they're going to be making this mount point metal to make it more resilient. The good news is even if this does break, it really doesn't affect the operation of the wheel all that much. So if it does break, yeah, you know, you'd want to get a replacement from your dealer, but it's not the end of the world. Okay, so taking that saddle off makes it super easy to access your negative fill valve, and I'm going to be pumping that to about 50 psi per Inmotion specifications. And when filling the top and the bottom, I would recommend that you fill it to about 10 pounds over what you actually want it to be, because you more than likely are going to lose a little bit when you disconnect. So just keep that in mind. Like if you want the bottom to be 100 pounds, fill it to 110. It's a good rule of thumb. Okay, so that side is done. I'm just going to remove the saddle on the other side and do the exact same procedure. And then my V11 should be ready to ride, hopefully tomorrow. One other thing I wanted to show you is the headlamp fan. It does seem to be slightly less loud than the old one that was in the first batch V11s and the pre-production V11s. So I wish I knew what model fan was in the old ones, but this new fan does seem slightly quieter. And it's weird, there is an option now in the app that I don't recall that you can have the fan running all the time if you wanted to. You know, like if you're anticipating a high demand situation or a high heat situation, you can have this fan running all the time. Although, as I've said before, I don't know how much good it really does you as far as dissipating heat in this area. I mean, maybe a little bit, but not much. Okay, V11 should be good to go. Have I mentioned how glad I am to have this back? Very, very glad. So now let's throw the S18 up here and check a few things. Just see how it feels real quick. Yeah, it feels really good. Okay, so I now have the S18 up here on the bench. All right, so I have it up on the stand, and here is the shock in the S18. You have your positive fill valve and your negative fill valve. I have the valve caps off. Before I do that though, I want to take this bolt out if I can, to take a look at what they're currently doing underneath there. One difference in what you get with the V11 and the S18. V11 comes with all these tools that are used to do stuff with the suspension, to fill the valve, and Allen keys that you would need. This S18 does not come with any of that. No tools included other than the pump. All right, let's see if that fits. Okay, that fits. So what I want to do is I want to take this apart and make sure that there's not a lock washer. Oh boy, how am I going to do this? I need to be able to stop it from spinning the other side as well. How are we going to do that? How are we going to do that? Because I need to stop that from spinning that. How am I going to do that, guys? Short of, and I'm not ripping the thing apart to do it. I thought people said you could get to this without ripping it apart. All right. Okay, I'm gonna have to give some thought, or maybe do some research on how other people got this apart, because I really don't feel like ripping the whole thing apart. Like I mentioned on the live stream, my wheel did have a little metal block in there. So anyways, yeah, there's a little metal block in here. Where are my little metal blocks? They look like this. And yeah, multiple people reported that it felt like the slide tubes were binding with this in, and simply removing this helped that problem a lot with a lot of people. So mine are out, and we'll see how it feels. So KingSong does include a little card that has recommended pressure based on rider weight and the conditions: city riding, off-road, or extreme. I'm probably around 85 kilograms riding weight, so for that it's estimating that my upper chamber should be 160, 190. I'm going to go a little higher than that based on what I recall with the pre-production model. I'll probably go maybe 210-ish, something like that, in the lower chamber, between 80 and 100. That's what we're going to start off with. And I'm going to actually use, well, I don't know. Let's try. This is the pump that comes with the KingSong. You notice it doesn't have that little lockout feature that the pump for the V11 does. This little lever that allows you to engage and disengage a shoe inside, which is supposed to help minimize air loss. And it's funny because they're both Gotway pumps, but the KingSong pump does not have that. So again, looking at the components here, this is your lockout lever. If you want to lock out the suspension, you would go that way, and that would greatly reduce your suspension travel. I don't want my suspension locked out. Over here is a little knob that controls the amount of the recovery rate of the shock, how quickly it expands after it absorbs a bump. If I remember correctly, when I when I had the pre-production wheel, I turned it all the way to the right, and then I went back 10 clicks. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So we'll try that again. And now we're going to try to put some air in it. So KingSong does include the manual for the shock. This is a 36RC D&M AOY 36RC. Okay, so my chambers should be up to pressure. And I know some people say that you should adjust the sag on here. Hey, Duff here. I'm not sure how much of the previous footage I'll be leaving in there because it has some wrong information in it. I'm in the process of filling the negative chamber on the S18, and I'm using the recommended procedure to do so, where you first compress the wheel by sitting on it, basically. Then you put this block in down here, this plastic block that they include, which prevents the suspension from going down once you pressurize it. Because what happens is once you sit on the wheel, it presses the linkage out, so you get good access to the valves. Now, what that block does is it prevents this from going all the way back into the body, which it's going to want to do once there's pressure applied. So you basically get your pressure set. All right, I want this set's about good, and then I should be able to stand on it to get that block out, or sit on it. Maybe we'll try sitting instead. Okay, let's put that all the way. Still don't like this handle. Didn't like it in pre-production, don't like it now. All right, let's put my weight on this thing. And once I do that, hopefully I can get the block out. Or not. That. Let's turn it on. Maybe I have it pumped too high now. Jeez. Let's go over here and stand on it. Okay, standing on it, I can get it out. All right, so let's. Just trying to get a feel. All right, so this might be a little bit on the high side for road riding, but we'll find out. We will find out. And unfortunately, like I said, I couldn't do a whole lot to really, well, maybe I can now. Actually, now that there's some pressure on here, I might be able to look at these bolts a little bit better. But we'll see. I think I'm going to ride it as is and reevaluate from there. I don't want to go tearing into it and checking a million things before we get some feedback on the road, just to see how it feels, because that's what matters, right? How it feels. So that will be the game plan, hopefully tomorrow. All right, guys, so that's gonna wrap up getting the suspensions filled and ready to start test riding. I would say that the setup of the suspension on the V11 is a little more straightforward, even though you do have to take off these saddles to access the top fill valve. There's not a lot to do other than setting the pressure to whatever you want it to be. On the S18, you have to use the special block to fill it. There's a little bit more to be concerned about because you have all this linkage, which I'm still not sure how much of a problem it's going to be as far as binding goes. Again, that's the only way that can be answered really is through ride testing. So we'll see how it feels. Right now I have it pumped up pretty high. It definitely feels stiffer than the V11 right now. So, but we'll see. Time will tell. So hoping to get out in these wheels over these next 2 days at some point. I still have the Sherman. It's out there fully charged after its range test today. I want to take the Sherman to the swamp, but I definitely want to get out on these wheels as well because my knees miss suspension. So So this video was kind of strange, which isn't unusual for me. It's pretty dumb. All right, so this video's come to an end. A little disjointed, a little strange, but you know, that happens sometimes. If you found the video interesting, please give it a big thumbs up. If you have any V11 or S18 questions, I'll do my best to answer them. If I don't know the answer, I'll try to find you the answer. Or if it's something you want me just to check on the wheel itself, I'll be happy to do that. Feel free to leave your comments, suggestions, ideas, and thoughts below. That's all I have for you for now. Until next time, Duckman out. Oh crap. Oh crap. Just accidentally bumped the Ninebot 1 and I just started a chain reaction. Let's see if I can avoid disaster.